Hi, I'm Mei Wai, the founder, CEO, and Chief Change Advisor of APAC Global Advisory. And today I have Li Gang with me from ELGO Technologies. He's the founder and CEO. How are you, Li Gang, today?
I'm feeling very well. Great. Okay,
That's
I'm very
great.
excited. So maybe a quick introduction about myself. So I'm Li Gang. I'm the founder and CEO of ELGO Technologies. So we provide customized AI solutions for companies. We aim to democratize the technology of AI so that it can help more and more companies out there. Right. So I have been in the field of the data and AI for around a decade. So previously, I also had held roles in Ministry of Health, National Healthcare Group, as well as in the startup scene, where in Zopa AI, right? So all dealing with data and AI stuff. So I think today we are going to discuss a very interesting topic. I think in previously we discussed a lot about change, right? Implementing change. But right now, I think today we'll discuss a bit about how do we sustain the change itself. I have this very interesting story to share. So previously we worked with a client. Okay, we are actually looking to transform their claims processing. Previously they are managing it all manually, entering, looking at invoices, checking it, entering into the system, doing very manually. So we decide to kind of automate most of that process. And the new process that we came out with actually kind of able to reduce the workload by 70% of the users. And we roll it out. Initially, it was a success. All until one point, right? The manager of the team left the company. The whole team suddenly revert all the way back to their old process. We are surprised at, why is this happening? So we went and we checked and talked to the team. And then we realized, so previously the manager is micromanaging and actually put a lot of top-down pressure. So the team have no choice but to follow the new process. But a lot of their feedback, right, or the value was not communicated to them. So once this manager left, the new manager come in. While he is still learning the new ropes, the team kind of feel that, maybe it's more convenient that we fall back to our old process, and they did.
That's a very interesting story, Li Gang. And in different variations, I've seen that happening, the springboard, right? But not to such an extreme, okay? So maybe you can share with us how do you then redesign and re-engineer the AI such that it's more sustainable?
Yeah, I think we took quite a lot of learnings from that. So specific to that case, right, I think communication is really important.
Yes.
Right. So I think especially the users, the ground feedback, you need to really hear them out so they feel involved, that they are part of it and you are listening to them and make changes accordingly. That's one. I think another one is the value, because people only do certain things if they believe in it.
Yes,
Right.
absolutely.
So the value communications, that how this is helping them and they need to feel that this is helping them, needs to be communicated across. Appreciation will also help a lot.
Yes, absolutely.
Right. Aside from communication, I think some of the techniques that we use, right, we find quite effective is mainly through design, right? When we are designing the solution itself. So whenever we first go to a client, we actually talk to them, understand all their key users, and map out their user journey. So what are they doing at each stage, and how do they feel?
Yes.
So one of the key trick is we try to minimize the change in terms of the experience that the user face as much as possible in the new process. So they don't feel that much of a gap, that this is a totally new process. They kind of naturally fit into it. In the best case, right, we always say, especially for AI solutions, the best AI solutions are those that you don't even know the AI is there. So we call this embedded solutions, embedded system, where it's so well integrated into their workflow. They don't realize it.
Yes.
That's the best.
Yes.
Right, so these are some techniques that I do when we are designing the kind of solutions that for clients. We design in that way to kind of minimize that kind of resistance and also ensuring that it's more sustainable. So those are some tricks. So Mei Wai, what are your thoughts on this? Is there any other tips and tricks that?
Okay.
Yeah.
I think I like your story very much, and I thought a little bit about the new manager that came, right? I asked myself, wow, for obviously a senior person, how come the whole team can spring back to the old process? Was there no gatekeeper or way to manage that, And that reminds me very much about the lessons on changeability as well, that sometimes you hear the clients telling you, I just don't know, my team is not changeable, or this or that. And actually, it's interesting that it's also a reflection of the leaders, right? Whether change can be sustainable also depends on not just the leaders who make the change, but the leaders that continue. And typically what is found is that when bosses want to assign new projects, they look at someone who's very good in finance, a good finance manager, or a good marketing person, or a good project person, and appoint that person because they're very good at their current work, their business as usual work. But then in actual fact, when you are leading change, right, it's very different. The kind of profile that you want is you kind of almost want an innovator in that role who steps out of the box, who continues to look at value, who's curious and all that. So a little bit as leaders, it's very easy to just listen to the team and say, yeah, there's not much value and everything, but it's really important as leaders to then be curious and say, but why did the organization spend the amount of time, effort on consultants to set it up? In the first place, there must have been benefits. Let's look into it. Let's understand more. Let's call them in, that kind of mindset versus listening to the general majority and going with that shift. So that's going to be a very important part in all organizations on sustainability because people do change. The other thing is obviously, particularly in your area, in other kinds of change, there's also very technical change where you need training. So I've heard people say, oh, it's not a problem lah. After the training, everyone will be fine. But then after that, they came back and they said to me, no, it's actually not fine. After we train them, then we find they don't really use it, or they are actually still having challenges understanding. They have a lot of questions and say the super users, etc., cannot be there forever for them, right? So what do we see in organizations that we felt did well in sustainability of change? What they seem to have built this invisible ecosystem of nurturing and learning, the desire to continue to learn, and even have ability to engage in conversation. During the part, Mei Wai, when we were training, it was like this, but we have learned this. Therefore, how we've adapted is this. That kind of learning spirit in that whole ecosystem continues to keep the users excited, interested, sharing best practices with each other, and certainly very much more likely to be sustainable. So the other thing which no one wants to talk about is also attrition, right? And some of the companies do go through that, okay, whether by intent, due to the economy, or by way of maybe getting their people so fatigued with change that they've shifted, or it could be that they just moved on, right? So that's why what Li Gang was talking about, I think the word motivation of the people is very important so they don't get change fatigue. But also there are cases where the change project becomes such a star and so excellent, then you start saying, let's pull out this guy, and let's promote them and send them to this country. And then you lose all the people who have that knowledge and background behind that change. So when we look at sustainability of projects, we also got to think about the structure and make sure they are the core people also that remain, such that it can spread by word of mouth and usage to ensure it is all embedded. Any thoughts about what I've said, Li Gang?
I'm just curious, you shared a lot about multinational companies as well, right? So how about those who are maybe SMEs or even companies that don't have a kind of international presence. Do you have any kind of like quick tips for them? How do they
on
can
sustainability?
Yes, how do they
of,
easily
change.
manage change more sustainably?
Okay, we talk a lot more on for that in our second episode. But I like to mention that what is very important in terms of ensuring sustainability, okay, aside for all the typical change plans, etc., is it's again people, right? And embedding that processes into the systems as well. So many small and medium-sized enterprises have waste stages in the sense that they do a project, etc., but then it's not properly documented in SOP, right? And even if they have the SOP, I find sometimes the teams don't really like to look at that or refer to that. Now, for this, the change leader, the leader himself, has to be a role model to do that. In a conversation, when things are not moving and teams are coming back and, there's a lot of different views, it's good as a leader to actually say, okay, let's look at the process map. How should it be? This and that, and have those feel comfortable with having conversations on protocols and processes. I think that can help them. But it starts from the top. So it's a culture from the top. The CEO, to some extent, the board as well. Yeah.
Oh, that's some very good advice. Right. That also reminds me of a recently interesting use case, since you are talking about AIOs as well, right? Gen AI, where companies actually use this to build a robot, a chatbot that actually understand all the process, and they are able to users are, instead of looking through documents, they're able to interact, and the chatbot can tell them what are the steps. I think
that's even better.
so. I think why not leverage on some of these new technologies as part of the change, sustaining change.
Yeah, and I think these kind of things, Li Gang, you would be best able to advise, are not terribly difficult or in a long time frame. What I understand, right?
Yeah.
It's something that with the use case and all that you can put together quite quickly to help organizations. Am I right?
Yes, I think with the new developments coming up, so more and more developments, right? The life cycle, the time to kind of to ship the product, to develop the product is getting shorter and shorter, and which is a good thing for many organizations.
Yes, and a lot of these more very straightforward questions or customer related aspects can actually be shifted for AIs to actually handle, right? Rather than humans, in a sense. Not because we want to reduce the number of headcount necessary, but then people can be better deployed and be more efficient to make the organization even more productive and have better results.
Yeah, totally agree with that.
Yes. So thank you, Li Gang, for today's episode on designing and re-engineering the AI processes such that it is more sustainable. And thank you for watching AGA Frontiers.